Hi, Bewitches. Before Amy and I get into the episode, we want to take a moment to address the June 24th, 2022 Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. This decision stripped away the right to have a safe and legal abortion. Everyone should have the freedom to decide what's best for themselves and their families, including when it comes to ending a pregnancy. This decision has dire consequences for individual health and safety. It could even have harsh repercussions for other landmark decisions to come. Restricting access to comprehensive reproductive care, including abortion, threatens the health and independence of all Americans. If you're a fellow podcaster, please join the movement by visiting podvoices.help. If you're able to support in other ways, please consider donating to Planned Parenthood at weareplannedparenthood.org. That's weareplannedparenthood.org. Amy and I, and especially Dr. E, OBGYN, would greatly appreciate it. We encourage you to speak up, take care, and spread the word. A final thank you to Ariel Nissenblatt and her colleagues of the Earbuds Podcast Collective for starting this incredible movement. Dude, am I like in a cult or something? Or do I just start cussing like the sailor's daughter that I am when we're together? I forecast a lot of swearing in this episode of Bewitched Banter. You have been warned. Content is not suitable for all listeners.
Welcome! You're listening to Bewitched Banter.
I'm Krista, and I believe that people are inherently shitty.
And I'm Amy, and I tend to believe that people are naturally good.
But ironically, I'm a super believer in the supernatural and all things spiritual.
And I tend to be a total skeptic.
We're best friends, and in this podcast, we're seeking to explore and understand each other's perspectives with deep dives into the spooky, the spiritual, the magical, and the mystical.
And what I would call some straight up spoofs.
Today, we'll be covering some cults.
Okay, cheers to that!
I just saw your note about the dark world of cults. So sorry. Also fucked up.
Okay.
Oh, fucking A. I'd like to say let's get spiritual, but today, let's cheers to getting cynical.
I gotta take a sip of this.
Me too. Fucking cheers to that.
Yeah, we need some this chocolatini we're drinking today.
It's very tasty. Can't see the brand, can you?
It's Uptown Cocktails.
Uptown, fuck us up. Uptown, fuck us up. Because we need it right now.
No, yes we do. There is something to be said about how interesting cults are to me.
Or
like
scary.
Yes.
Scarily interesting.
Yes. Well, it's like that morbid curiosity you get.
Sure.
Like to me, it's just so interesting, like how most of the time they're recruiting like a normal everyday person. And like this person can get so absorbed in and like sucked in and brainwashed that they're like dressing a different way.
Mm-hmm.
They're acting a different way. And the one thing that's the most mind-blowing to me is that a lot of times people who are in cults are like willing to like alienate themselves from like their friends and their family.
Yep.
Like that to me is like the hardest pill to swallow. Like how could you just give up on like everything you spent your life working towards?
Well, you may or may not get into this, but I know we've kind of sort of chatted briefly about it a couple days ago just because of our interest in TV and art and film and media. But Leah Remini's docuseries on like basically taking Scientology to task is exactly what you're saying, where people are declared suppressive if, God forbid, your family members or friends don't also believe in Scientology.
And like the biggest takeaway I got was from the research that people don't actually realize they're in a cult when they're in one. They don't usually realize until after they leave.
That's the scariest part.
I have to ask you because I feel like everyone has like their favorite cult. What's yours?
Well, I am fascinated, like I said, with Scientology as just an organization that they are exempt from taxes because they somehow got religious status, which makes me infuriated. So couldn't say it's my favorite, but I am very interested in it My favorite one, I have to say, is another Netflix series. It was Waco, obviously on the Waco tragedy.
Oh, I saw that. It was good.
Yeah, it broke my heart into tears when like all the children and oh my god, women and
Yes.
children and Ruthie from Ozark, God bless that actress. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but like her and her children were just burned to death. And that's honestly, don't get me started, that was on the government. I'm not saying what any of those folks did were right, having an arsenal of weapons, but the government should not have shot fatal fire when knowing civilians were in there, women and children.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And then, like, going back to when you said Scientology doesn't have to pay taxes, I kind of think it's bullshit that any religion can get away with that.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
I mean, let's start our own religions, just stop paying taxes.
Yes. Bewitched Banter.
Yeah, there we go. Guys, you will now be going to church when you listen to our podcast.
Let's take them there, baby. Take them to
My
church.
favorite cult, though, is it's another really good podcast. It's called Heaven's Gate. Have you listened to it?
Oh, I listened to it a while back, but I know it was pretty horrific too.
And one of my coworkers at like a job I had a few years ago, she was my trainer, and she lived in San Diego. And the house where they all decided to like commit suicide, she was growing up in that neighborhood, and she remembers like helicopters like going around and like, and then obviously she's like,
okay. And sorry, not to be PC. Did you mean die by suicide? I'm totally cutting. I'm just being PC for our listeners.
What did I say?
They died by suicide instead of committed suicide.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know the difference. I mean, that's what they did. Anyway,
well, it's just the language that I'm trying to reflect on these days. Anyway,
I
sorry.
didn't know you were so woke these days.
Oh no, I'm woke, but I'm still a joke. Like I still have fun. But
okay, so I am gonna start out because I think this quote, or not quote, sorry, definition does a great job of defining what a cult is. So a cult is a group or movement held together by a shared commitment to a charismatic leader or ideology. It has a belief system that has the answers to all of life's questions and offers a special solution to be gained only by following the leader's rules. It requires a high level of commitment from at least some of the members. And then before we get into my research, I just want to mention I found a lot of my information from a New York Times article, and it was really interesting. They interviewed Dr. Stanley Kath from Tufts University. Okay. And he had been treating and working with around like 60 ex-cult members.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know age ranges? I'm just curious by chance. Like, were there children in that mix? Or?
No, most of the time they were like mid-20s, early 20s.
But that means they were children when they were in one, right? I would think.
No. Well, I mean, there's obviously children in cults, but like the people who were interviewing and working with, it sounds like they were adults.
Oh, okay. All right.
And the word cult obviously is a very heavy loaded word. Obviously, when someone says they're in a cult, like obviously everyone has like a knee-jerk reaction, like, what? But I do want to bring up the fact that there are several cults that are harmless.
Okay. I never heard of any. And to your point, like to me, it's like, oh.
Yeah. Well, everyone thinks that. But I mean, most of the time when you think about a cult, it's not in a positive light.
Right.
And then this tells you that they have no idea about like, there is so much limited information about cults because it's such a secretive world. It's estimated that there are 2,500 to 3,000 cults in the United States. There are a lot of smaller cults, but obviously they're so small, researchers can't really keep track of the number. And this is why I said they have no idea what they're talking about. So the number of cult members nationally is estimated at 300,000 to 3 million.
Oh, okay.
So that tells you
range there.
That tells you they have no clue at all.
Right. We have no idea how many factions are in between there.
And I was like thinking about it. You can't really go around asking people like, "Hey, are you in a cult?" And this was shocking to me and a little disappointing. Like as being a female, women make up to 70% of cult members around the world. And ultimately, no one can really pinpoint why women are more likely to join a cult.
So it's interesting. I'm going to cover actually female-led cults, but you're saying the majority are females are members.
Yes. In the research I found, they usually always said like 99% of the time it was men who were the leader.
Yeah, I
So
came
it's
across
interesting
this
you
right now.
found like a female leader because that's not very popular.
No,
Yeah.
and even in my research I'll get to later, he says that he's like, and it was really difficult to find female-led cults where women are the sole focus or leader.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, though, so they're members. When I'm saying 70%, they make up the members, and
Okay.
And like, so for example, Dr. David Bromley from Virginia Commonwealth University, he believes it's because women tend to be more social beings. Like they're going to be the ones who attend more social events. They're going to join a club. They're going to be going to church, just looking for more connections. And then other psychologists, they suggest that women, obviously, we all know this, have been oppressed for a long time, and they're much more comfortable under an authority figure. But they don't really have a concrete answer of why more women join.
Well, kind of just like what you just said. Like, we are so used to being repressed by the man or men or a man. Like, speaking from experience, you know, we as females, as a collective, have traditionally been forced to be under a rule of some sort. You know, if it's physically, socially, psychologically, emotionally, we're somehow equating ourselves to a man, and it's like, no, fuck that. We're amazing individual beings.
I love that.
Snaps for myself.
Yeah,
thanks.
snap. And there's going to be 4 main components I'm going to be discussing today that make up a cult, and we're going to discuss each one in length. So the first one, very obvious. I probably don't even need to tell you this. There needs to be a leader, obviously. Some of the popular cult leaders that we all know, like Charles Manson, Jim Jones, and I think I'm saying this right, the guy from Waco, not Waco.
It does look like Waco. It's Waco.
Is it David Koresh? Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
okay.
Perfectly.
They all have a lot in common. And so from studying varying cult leaders, researchers have pieced together certain characteristics that unite this rare group.
Okay.
So first and foremost,
let me guess, you have a dick. Let me guess, you're a narcissist.
Yes, and we discussed this in another episode, but I think a lot of people get confused what a narcissist is, and it's a person who has an excessive interest and admiration and love for themselves, basically.
And I'll clarify again, thanks to my Dr. Drew Pinsky book reading years ago about narcissists. Even though they express the traits of self-love to the outside world, they do that because they hate themselves so much.
Okay. I can see that.
You know what I mean? Inside, they hate themselves so much that to anybody, even if they're a stranger, they have to build themselves up to be this glamorous figure. I know a very personally close one.
Yes, I used to know a narcissist in college, and he always felt the need to tell people how smart he was. It drove me nuts. Yep. I'm like, if you're smart, you don't have to tell people you're smart. They're just going to pick that up that you're smart by talking to you.
Exactly.
You don't have to do a disclaimer, hey, I'm smart. We're like, okay, cool. Anyway,
cool story,
we're in college. We're like, can we play some beer pong? We don't give a fuck. But this is something you probably never heard of before, and this is a whole new term to me. So a lot of cult leaders have what scholars would actually call traumatic narcissism. They said, for example, like, this is a good way to put it, like a movie star may be narcissistic, meaning they're like full of themselves. But when someone is a traumatic narcissist, their love for themselves actually has a harmful effect on others.
Yeah, and I think based on the book I just mentioned and read, it's exactly what Drew covers. I should have prefaced that book particularly covers celebrities' narcissism.
Okay, interesting. And so an example of traumatic narcissism at work is from The Sex Cult. It's another podcast I listen to. It's really interesting, called NXIVM.
That shit is so good. I listened to it too.
And it was a cult that sold itself as a self-help group to empower women. The cult leader, Keith Raniere, had branded women with a symbol on their body with his initials and forced them to follow near starvation diets to be physically attractive to him.
So disgusting. I actually just watched, I think it was a Forensic Files or a 2020 or a Dateline on exactly that. And both me and my mom were like, that dude's fugly. Like, come on now.
Oh my gosh, I was just about to say that. The others into these abusive situations, right? And it ends up being like they're very charismatic. And I was like saying it, in my notes, I wrote like Charles Manson is butt ugly. How do people think he's charismatic?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. There's some imagery. He looks kind of hot, and oops, sorry about it. But some, again, caveat, some. He's a piece of shit. Sorry, I just had to say that.
But ultimately, cults leaders' charisma gives them a social status to their followers, almost that they are better than them, like you're elevated. And since cult leaders tend to be very charismatic, they also tend to be very good at reading people and connecting with people. Another thing cult leaders tend to do is that they tend to have very erratic behavior, and you never know what kind of mood they're going to be in. So one minute, like obviously they can be very calming and kind and like your best friend. And then the next moment they're being very like mean and like calling you names. And the fact that a cult leader's temperament is unpredictable, it actually like allows them to be in control of a situation. So it's exactly like when someone's in a toxic relationship and they're experiencing those extreme highs and lows.
Hi. Speaking of high, yeah.
And so
Triggered
I thought
a
this
little
is
bit personally, but yay.
And so from an article in Psychology Today by Dr. Bill Gordon, he does a great job summarizing this. In the brain, dopamine, the brain's happy dance drug, responds to lust. Dopamine encodes on the anticipation of reward. Like the compulsive gambler anticipating the big payoff, the toxic relationship addict is waiting for the jackpot of love and affection from the other person, not knowing whether that is going to happen or not causes like an adrenaline rush. So adrenaline is ultimately a stimulant, and stimulants are very addictive. And so now we're going to dive into the second component of a cult, and they have to have a transcendent belief system. So the meaning of transcendent is an extraordinary or beyond human experience. Like, for example, talking to God would be explained as a transcendent experience.
Yeah, I covered transcendental meditation on
F2. Oh, yeah, you did. And
outer body experiences, basically.
So throughout our time, people have asked like the obvious questions. What's the meaning of life? What is my purpose? Why am I here? And these questions have led philosophers, religious scholars, artists, and also wackadoo cult members to reflect and develop an endless number of transcendent belief systems to answer them. Even though not all cults organize themselves around transcendent beliefs in a higher power or higher purpose, groups nearly always unite around their support for what they think is like the quote unquote right idea or right approach. So some cults may gather around like a political idea, and the list goes on because there's so many different types of cults, like terrorist cults, racist cults, doomsday cults,
QAnon,
commercial cults.
Unfortunately incorporates almost all of those.
Oh, I'm sure. And an idea is transcendent when its followers treat it as like the be-all, end-all. A transcendent belief doesn't have to involve gods or spirituality at all.
No.
In simple terms, it is a belief that will get you to like a certain better place.
Okay.
And that's basically what the cults are selling most of the time. But all like in a cult, free thinking and doubt are just not allowed at all. And then obviously we know like the bigger questions in life are very abstract issues, and that no one, and if they do not have a black and white answer to answer these things. But people, the reason like joining a cult is so attractive is because the cult tends to offer these like really solid, absolute answer for these difficult questions. And then many cult leaders promote messages and answers that are simple and seem to make sense. So it's like they're giving them like kind of an easy fix. Like, hey, come here. We have the answer. It's very simple, straightforward. Like, we got it.
Yeah, straight up MLM or multi-level marketing scheme. That's exactly what it is. Like, just let me sell you this quick, easy idea. No problem. You don't have to put any of the hard work or self-sacrifice or diligence. Just, yeah, here's a quick solve if you just follow me.
Exactly. And so religion and philosophies promote many different transcendent belief systems. Each one has different answers about the meaning of life, and most will expect you to become a better person as you grow to understand the belief system. So in stark contrast, in many cults, your purpose is to become a perfect person, a perfect, unquestioning, fiercely dedicated, doubt-free devotee. It's like you have to do what we say and don't ask questions.
Yeah, God forbid you do ask questions. I had, side note, a really, really, really good CCD teacher, and to be honest, I couldn't tell you what that stands for. Something Christian, I'm sure. But it was basically Catholic education outside of school if you didn't attend a Catholic school. And so it was basically Catholic education for public school.
So it's like an after school club.
Yeah. Yep. It was once a week. We had like worksheets. We had to read passages. We read passages of the Bible. I should be clear in session. And my parents, thank God, never, ever, ever forced me or my sister to do that, but they wanted to give us some type of foundation of a scope of religion and worldview. And clearly, very clearly, my sister was like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. Not for me.
What about you?
For me, no, I think the writer in me loves the allegory and the story behind the Bible, right? It's like a historic text.
Yeah.
And so I got into the literature of it, if you will. So I really liked that. And not everything, but so many literary arcs stem from the tropes of the Bible or archetypes from the Bible that I was like, wow, this is cool. Whether or not Jesus did or did not walk on water, who knows? But it's just cool that like that symbolism was carried out through so many other things. And so I guess the influence of writings what I was fascinated about.
At that age or at a later age? Because it seems kind of deep for
Oh,
a 16-year-old.
sorry. Yeah, that was what it was.
I was like, damn, you're deep as a 16-year-old.
Far beyond. No, I was probably in my when I hit college, probably.
Okay, I was going to say, I was not thinking that way when I was 16.
Yeah, no. When I was 16 or maybe like 14, 15, back to my original point, I had a great CCD teacher who was like, you're not doing your job if you don't question everything. And that was from a Catholic school teacher.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
I just thought it was cool.
It doesn't exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist as much as it should.
Oh, 100%. I was just making that little personal anecdote because I thought it was like, okay, cool. I later on went on to study journalism. Obviously, always be curious. ABC, always be questioning everything. So anyway, it almost stemmed my interest in that. So I thought it was cool.
And so in cults, your purpose may also be to support like your perfect leader, spread your group's perfect belief system throughout the world. In most cases, each cult's members' needs, ideas, and individuality are irrelevant. Instead, the value of members is measured by like how much you live up to like the group's vision and like how devoted you are, basically. Sure. So the third component is going to be for a cult is you need a system of control. So a lot of times people believe they are joining something to give like a group to give them like purpose or meaning. And slowly they get pulled in by learning about the leader's mission or belief through like study sessions, rituals. And I didn't want to get into it because it was like it would have been a whole another tangent, but it was really interesting. Like today it's like social media. There's lots of cults.
Oh yeah.
That are started by social media. We obviously all know that. Was it January 6th?
Oh my
was a
God.
Good display of social media at work.
Fucking QAnon again at work. Or, well, I don't know if they were involved in that, but certainly a Trumpian cult follower.
Yeah. And so, like, anyway, these practices, because they're, like, happening time and time again, the individual will get more and more pulled in by the cult. And like the new member will adopt like the new beliefs and follow new rules that are set by their leader. And so they use what is called behavior modification. And it's a tool that cults often use on their followers. This technique uses different kinds of positive and negative punishment and reinforcements to reach desired behavior.
So like the NXIVM guy with the branding.
Pretty much. Like, so members are taught to stop the doubts about the cult that enter their minds and replace them with good thoughts about the cult, or with a key phrase that they repeat over and over. And some cults use techniques that prey on the phobias or fears of their members. They often threaten that bad things will happen to them. Like with Scientology, if you try to escape, like you'll develop
and they literally, cancer. According to Leah Remini, who's a fucking badass, I love what she's doing, and her partner Mike Rinder to hold these motherfuckers accountable. But if you do leave the quote unquote church, they stalk you.
No, I've like,
and they like
it's
harass
terrifying,
you and your family members and friends, and it's just disgusting. But anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for that. And then the fourth component is systems of influence. So more established cult members almost act as a role model to new members of the group. They show newer members how they're supposed to act, what rules they need to follow, and a lot of times how they can recruit and train new members. A lot of the recruitment process for a cult is convincing someone that they are loved and that any questions they are seeking can be addressed by belonging to something bigger than themselves.
Well, I think that's part of it so much, and I think you kind of touched on it with transcendental meditation, but like we're all seeking the what ifs and the afterlife and the what's beyond, if there's anything beyond, and the why the fuck are we even here as a species, as a human being. And unfortunately those who have no idea how to question anything could so easily fall into this type of predatory situation.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like, so basically a cult will like identify someone as their target, and then there are going to be a variety of tactics they use to establish power over the individual. So Dr. Stanley Kath, the psychologist I mentioned at the very beginning, he has treated over 60 former cult members, and he kind of looked over some popular techniques that he found that cult leaders used to control their members. And through his studies, he discovered that all sorts of people from all walks of life join a cult, regardless of like how much money you make, your race. And one interesting thing he found was that a lot of people who joined cults, at one point, they were religious, and then a lot of them had some kind of like, I guess I can say, spiritual awakening. Decided like they were questioning their religion. At some point they had like dabbled in religion, and then they obviously maybe didn't believe it, and they found the cult somehow to find these answers. But they also, the biggest thing he noticed all of them had in common was that they would lack self-confidence.
Oh boy.
And cults tend to prey on people who struggle with confidence because they know they are easy to break down and then rebuild up, basically.
I could have easily been a part of one, and I'm going to get to it later in my case, but damn, dude, my self-confidence was real bad for a real long time.
Well, I feel like everyone struggles with their confidence at certain points of their life, or just in general.
But like, I guess it's so sad because thank God we have beautiful families who support us and support groups and networks, you know, right? But like, imagine those who don't.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a lot of it too. Yeah. But like, they basically will like break them down, and they try to like show them that the cult is like where you need to go to gain your confidence. We're supportive.
Oh, that's why there's so many business level ones like Nexium.
So a popular tactic they use is what they call love bombing. To help recruit a member or help a member gain confidence in the cult's mission, the members will almost bombard the new person they are trying to recruit with compliments. And this way they're like basically being trained to think that the cult is an accepting and loving group. Ultimately, a group they can confide in and they feel comfortable to be around. Like they feel the most confident when they're around these people.
Sure.
And so new cult members may be love bombed when they first join the group, but once they become established members, the leaders will want to maintain emotional control by publicly embarrassing the member. So Jim Jones would have his new members, one of the cult leaders we all know, probably one of the more popular ones. He would actually have them write down their deepest insecurities, mistakes, or like any fear they had in writing. And then he would eventually, what he would do with this information, he would like publicly shame them with it.
Oh my God, what a piece of shit.
I know, that's so evil. Like they confided in you in something that's very like, that's a hard thing to do with anyone, is like tell like even a close friend, like you're confiding in them in confidence. And then so think about, you wrote this down and then they use it against you as like ammo. I don't know.
It's just disgusting to even think about.
This is even more messed up. They tend to rely on paranoia tactics. They will often convince members of a group, or like their families, the government, but basically they're trying to convince them someone is out to get them. And the only way they can be safe is by being a member of be a member of my group. You'll be protected.
Sure.
And they also love to use like the us versus them mentality. And this is like what really leads to people alienating themselves and like cutting off ties with their family and friends. And that kind of wraps up like the whole 4 components.
Sure.
But I had to mention this because it goes all the way back to episode 1. We had discussed Patricia Arquette.
Yes.
And she played Alison Dubois in the show The Medium you discussed and covered. And I know we like when we were recording it, we were like, you're like, I think she's related to David Arquette. She is. And they were actually both children of cult leaders.
That's so scary. Do you know which one? Did it say it all?
I didn't. I probably could find it and I'll tell you another time.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just so curious because after being such a fan of that show, as I mentioned in Ep 1, I did not know that was her or David's background at all. How scary.
I know. And so all I know is they lived on a commune. It was in Virginia. and it was part of like an international cult that started in Indonesia. And the purpose of the cult was like they're trying to like build a utopian society.
Okay, which PS that shit never works, y'all listening.
Oh, I know.
We aren't we're humans, we're fallible, and we will never have a utopia, so fuck off with those ideals. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, basically
Wouldn't it be
turn
nice?
the news
Sure
on,
would.
that'll show you obviously that's not true.
No, humans are shitty. To my point in this every episode intro, humans are inherently shitty, so sorry, utopia. It's such a nice dream, is all.
Yeah, I mean, it is a dream, basically. But they, poor Patricia and David, they grew up with like no running water on this commune, electricity.
Wow. Was this their whole life, do you know, more or less? Or just definitely
I think
children?
they were like 9 or so when they left.
Oh my God.
And they didn't have...
children. They were children.
Yeah, and they didn't have access to bathrooms. They said it was like really violent. People were using drugs.
Oh, I'll get to it in my... Lots of that going around.
And so a few other celebrities, just quickly, who were in other cults, just because I brought up Patricia Arquette.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer, I guess she actually joined one when she moved to LA to start acting, and it took her
Was it Scientology, question mark?
No. It's funny because she didn't realize she was in a cult until her husband at the time started filming a documentary about another cult, and that made her realize she was in a cult.
Holy shit.
And then... Thank
God.
I think most people know this. Joaquin Phoenix was in one. Yep. Winona Ryder, and then Rose McGowan.
Do you know which one she was in?
I think it's called Children of God. If I'm saying that right.
I might be mentioning that.
Oh, you are? Yeah. It's messed up. And she said she actually has vivid memories at the age of 9 running through a cornfield during a storm to run away.
Oh my God. I just got if y'all can't see me right now, head to toe body chills of like fear for just your life. Imagine being
and the cult leaders were chasing them.
At 9 years old through a fucking cornfield. Is that what you said?
Yeah. And it was it was Children of God as the cult, and it was like it was something about they would all have sexual relations with each other. But the reason
there's always sex too. That's the other thing we didn't mention. Like, maybe it's not always in your research, but like, why is it always sexualized somehow? Like,
no, a lot aren't though.
Like the ones I guess I follow are, but like, anyway.
But so what made her family leave was because ultimately they started having like sexual relations with children, and that's why they left.
Oh God, I'm gonna throw up. I mean,
yes, it's disgusting, right?
So upset. I'm shaking my hands in the air. Everybody, I'm like, livid.
And I want to leave it on this quote because I thought this was awesome. It's from Stephen Colbert, who we all love, and he said, "Here's an easy way to figure out if you're in a cult. If you're wondering whether you're in a cult, the answer is yes.
Yes. So
if you listen to this and you're questioning, get help.
Am I in a cult? Question mark? You might be. Well, Amos, thanks for taking us through that dark, beautiful history of cults.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna take it one more darker for ya. One more. Well,
yeah, I feel like the stories are gonna be the dark part tonight.
One more darker for y'all out there. Hope you're ready. Buckle up. It was a hard one for me. I'll be very honest. Just had some triggering things personally, but also at the top here, there are some very serious trigger warnings on suicide and mental health. Again, even as I wrote this case, I got deeply angry and I cried.
I know you did because you messaged me. I'm so fucking pissed right now.
Yeah, I was having a hard time with it because there were some serious, relevant, personal, recent trigger warnings with some things I've been through recently. So without further ado, I just wanted to let all of our listeners know regarding mental health and suicide.
Fast forward if you need to. That's what she's telling you.
Yes, fast forward if you need to, but if you are still listening, you are not alone. And there are resources out there like the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number. If you or anyone you know or love, like I have, has expressed their desire to die by suicide, please do call 1-800-273-8255. There is help out there. There is. You are not alone. And disclaimer, I am not, nor is Amy a doctor, or are we professional psychologists, nor
I can't believe you have to put that out there in the world. I think people would pick up right away. We're not doctors.
Licensed therapists, but I am putting
I think
it
I
out
would know
there.
that right away. Like, yeah, these chicks aren't doctors.
We are not medical professionals by any means. So anyway, I have several personal connections to suicide I will get into later. But today, I'm going to tell you about the POS that Teal Swan is. Teal Swan, yes, that's the name.
I can't get over the name. Teal Swan, that just sounds like a store.
In her,
not a name.
Oh, it does, like Wet Seal.
Yeah.
Oh, it totally has a Wet Seal vibe of like 20-somethings going. Yes. Cheap, contemporary, casual.
I can see like Teal Swan being like a little clothing store in Sedona. I don't know.
Oh, that's even better. Oh, yes, that tracks with what I'm about to tell you. But deeper level, she gives me serious Sylvia Brown vibes. Again, Ep1 reference. It's bad. It ain't good. This bitch is
because
nasty.
We said several times Sylvia Brown was like a high level to reach of shittiness.
Oh.
Like, you gotta really reach for it.
And this bitch hits that mark in my humble opinion. So this is because the reason she has Sylvia Brown vibes is because the way she manipulates. And the way she manipulates is, ooh, I'm so mad because I studied this and you're not using it for good. You're using your powers for evil. Her controversial use of YouTube content and SEO, which for those who are unfamiliar with digital marketing, SEO is search engine optimization. So think as a user, anything you fucking type, voice type, text into Google, guess what? That's SEO. And Google's listening to make sure they know how to market to you.
I thought it was my vaccine because I thought I put a chip in my arm and they're listening that way.
They did, though.
I've noticed like when I walk by a fridge, I get stuck. Have you ever noticed that? That magnet.
I did.
In my chip. Not the phone I'm holding in my hand all the time.
SEO, search engine optimization. Teal Swan uses that and YouTube, which YouTube uses SEO to lure other... YouTube doesn't. She does. She uses the channel of YouTube to lure those contemplating dying by suicide into her spider web, shall we say, with videos specifically tagged, get this, I gotta take a breather on this, with headlines and questions like, purposely designed and written, crafted to make said SEO possible. Quote, I want to kill myself. What to do if you're suicidal? And what to do if you feel hopeless. Making these videos very easy to stumble across on YouTube search platform.
Videos she made herself, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think they're actually pretty highly produced, to be honest, or quality produced. But regardless, she's using these keywords of everything that people are feeling right now, post-pandemic / current fucking who knows pandemic.
I wouldn't say post, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like we're still in it based on
so
many things.
Basically, if you put that in your Google search, it should pop up one of her videos.
It very well could and should because she's so savvy at using SEO.
Okay, I'm following.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To pop it up. So people are searching for these things. I'll get to that in more depth later because of pandemic and just our world. Like it's driving us all crazy in the way that we live. And
yeah, I mean, I feel like every day I wake up and I'm like, oh, do I want to know what happened today, or do I just want to like...
I news blackout, and I fucking study journalism, but I cannot do the news. I can't. You would think those headlines would be benign, right, or helpful even. What to do if I'm in crisis. All those things. What to do if I want to kill myself? What do I do if I'm suicidal or if I feel hopeless? Benign or helpful, perhaps. You would think, right?
You would hope.
However, in fact... one of the sources I use, which I'll fully mention later, is from Vice News, is, quote, this is the subhead of this article, so beautifully done, Vice News, P.S., so shout out to you. Quote, meet Teal Swan, a YouTuber who proves selling salvation to desperate people is an equal opportunity racket. End quote. Yes, it is. Now, Amy, please go to her website.
Okay, I'm opening it. Let's see. Wow, my first reaction is she's very, very pretty.
She's stunning, and I'm sorry, she is like... she looks like Princess Megan.
She's super model
or Duchess
pretty.
Megan,
so she
whatever.
Has like pale skin, dark brown, long hair.
Like reddish brown.
Almost to like her belly button. Like perfect body, skinny... big boobs. We'll post her on the Insta
Oh,
so you
yeah.
can see her. But yeah, obviously she's very pretty.
She's stunning, and I can't believe we didn't discuss this earlier when we were talking about men's like appeal, or even any cult leader's appeal, right? They use sex. We kind of mentioned it, but fucking hot bitch, I'll be honest. Not giving you kudos for that, bitch, but you're hot. I'll give you that. She is a YouTube star proclaiming a very new agey vibe of healing people's childhood traumas through meditation. That's all from Wikipedia.
I mean, that sounds cool.
Right, in theory. Ooh.
I mean, I don't know what she's done. I'm just saying at this point.
We're gonna dive into it. Remember our suicide disclaimer? Oh, here we come.
Well, yeah, I'm saying when you say that, it sounds cool, but obviously it's probably not cool at all.
Right. So this is from Wikipedia. Born as Mary Teal Swan.
So her middle name was Teal.
Yep. Sorry. Excuse me. She was born as Mary Teal Bosworth. Yes, her middle name's Teal.
I don't mind that as a middle name. I don't think I would use
Are you sticking up for this bitch now that you've seen her?
She's so hot. She is hot. I like the name
She's
Teal.
hot, bro. I don't care.
She's hot. Who cares? What did she do?
I'll fuck her.
What?
I don't give a fuck.
Oh, now I saw what she looks like. Teal's cool.
Anyway, born Mary Teal Bosworth on June 16th, 1984, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She was raised in Logan, Utah, which was a home to a very, very large community of Mormons.
I was going to say Mormons.
Similar to here in northern Arizona. But from a young age, Swan did not fit in and claims to have been viciously bullied by the various pious Mormon children.
Can I say something for a second?
Yeah.
Me clicking on this website, what kind of weird ads am I going to start getting?
Oh, you better clean your spam out, girl, and your cache, all that shit. But yeah, you're going to be getting served some meditation shit. That's how they get you. I'm going to get to it. I got things to cover. But yes, beware. Clear your cache. Still won't help, but clear it anyway. From a young age, Swan did not fit in and claims to have been viciously bullied by the very pious Mormon children that she went to school with. It wasn't just her lack of conviction or faith in Mormonism that made her stand out, though. She claimed that at a very early age, she had hypersensitivity and even higher sensitivity to sound. Later, in the documentary about her life called Open Shadow, the story of Teal Swan, which launched in 2017, her mother claimed that her daughter's hypersensitivity was not taken lightly, and that she and her husband took Teal Swan to several psychologists, whose methods did not apparently work nor heal their daughter.
I wonder if she has that weird thing where there's a name for it, I can't remember, but like people can't stand the sound of other people eating.
Oh, like an ASMR thing.
Yeah, I wonder if she has that a little bit too.
I forgot what that's called. Something phobia.
You're probably on it.
Look
more
it up.
than
I don't fucking know, but I have heard of it before.
Yeah.
In fact, though, their daughter, Teal Swan, as a teen, did attempt suicide. So clearly none of those psychologists helped. One of the such psychologists, though, that her parents brought her to was her very first one, named Barbara Snow. Know anything about this bitch? You should. I'm not saying you should, but
no.
Jon Snow.
No. I have no idea.
Something. Kit Harington. What up? Jon Snow. Hey. Barbara Snow was not hot, nor was she a good person. She was a Utah-based therapist at the helm of the Satanic Panic in the late 80s, early 90s. Now, if y'all aren't true crime listeners, which you fucking should already be if you're listening to us, Satanic Panic was during that era, 80s, 90s, in which people brutalized or like brought down the idea of anyone that quote unquote believed in Satan.
Okay.
And
I didn't actually know. I know the name and the phrases. If you ask me what it was,
it got
I couldn't
really,
tell
really
you.
bad where there were therapists like Barbara Snow who used the quote unquote Satanic Panic to basically have a sex ring guised as psychologists.
Okay.
I don't know if sex ring's the right word, but like they abuse children.
Okay.
Psychologically, at the very least. And in 2008, Snow, Teal Swan's first psychologist, was found to have violated codes of ethics and professional conduct. And I believe she played a huge role because of that in Swan's present day, very controversial techniques.
I can see that.
So Teal's suicide attempt may very well have been rooted in some serious childhood traumas.
Do you know how old she was?
No, it just said when she was a teen.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have the exact age. But in some serious childhood traumas, like I think may have happened to her. Whether it was the way that she tells it, I don't know. But she claims to have been abused, raped, and psychologically tortured by a family friend since she was 6.
Damn, that's really dark.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting if that is true, right? And we'll never victim blame and shame. Like, if that happened to you, Teal, I'm sorry, because no one deserves that. More disturbing, and this is a quote from Wikipedia, according to an article in the Huffington Post Canada, Swan claimed to have been the victim of a ritualistic abuse by a satanic cult for over a decade. This was apparently in order to cure her of her supposed extrasensory abilities. Part of this alleged abuse included being, hold your horses, hold on to your seat, included being sewn into a corpse. End quote.
What?
That's what she claims about her abuse.
Holy
if the other shit
I
is
don't
true,
even know how to respond to this.
Remember Midsummer? The guy's in a fucking bear?
Yeah.
That's what I immediately thought of. And I was like so disturbed for like...
I don't know, but how would you...
So imagine being not A, sewn into a fucking bear corpse, but B, being sewn into a fucking human corpse.
But how is that even physically possible?
I don't know.
I look at my body and I think about... If I passed away, this is morbid thought.
Again, I don't...
Who's going to fit in here?
Oh, stop. I don't know. I don't
believe that.
Again, I don't know if that portion is true. That's what she claims. However, she also claims all the other disturbing abuse.
But if she made that up, that's a whole nother level of I'm so fucked up in the head.
100%. We're going to keep...
Or people are doing that. I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless.
I don't know either. Maybe it is happening. And if it is, y'all are going to...
But where would they find these big people? I'm not trying to be messed up. But like to fit a whole other body and then be sewn shut when you suffocate?
I don't know,
and
girl.
The smell alone.
Oh, God. But
I'm not buying this.
I can't.
I feel like that's just like...
That part, again, probably lore, but the abuse, okay, fine. Might not justify, but explain where she's going to get to in her career. So I think...
I'm still stuck on this, but you can keep going on.
I think that, again, her family friend that quote-unquote abused her for all these years may have very well been her own therapist, Barbara Snow.
Damn.
Think about it. Like, if she's saying all this shit about satanic panic, Barbara Snow is, and then Teal sees that and was like, I've been sexually abused by her, and who knows who else in that
Is she
ring.
sewn into a swan? Is that why her name's Teal
Oh, God,
Swan?
it could be. Anywho.
I don't know how you fit in
I
one.
think that Barbara Snow may or may not have been that friend who was at the helm of some abuse. Speculation again. Who
if
knows?
she has a platform, why wouldn't you use that to call her out?
There's my skeptic, making me curious. Great question. Anyway, in my head, it tracks that this woman was abusive in whatever form. Psychologically, clearly, you didn't come through your patient commitment, obviously. To this day, though, Teal Swan claims to have extrasensory abilities, if we remember also from episode 1. This it means have extrasensory perception or abilities such as, I'll get into them again, clairvoyance, clairsentience, and clairaudience. All three are a little different. Clairvoyance means inner sight, clairsentience means inner feel, and clairaudience means inner hearing. And that's the one that Swan claimed to have since she was very young. Covered in episode 1 again, y'all. Go back if you want to hear it in our Ep1 about psychics. As she's still alive today, Teal has obviously not completed, I was going to say committed, excuse me, I'm going to correct myself. Teal has not completed suicide. Instead, she went on from this alleged abuse and wrote her first novel, The Sculptor in the Sky, in 2011. This same year, Swan uploaded her first quote-unquote like mini baby TED Talk, hosted in Salt Lake. So she was like basically preaching about meditation, mindfulness, all that.
Is she respected, like, in the community?
Oh, we'll get to it. She has, what do you call them? Members. But I'll call them followers in this case. She has lots of members in the classic definition of a cult following, right? But they're called the Teal tribe. I'll get to that in a little bit. But anyway, she hosted her first baby TED Talk in Salt Lake, and that talk was recorded to YouTube. Very quickly, because of that, she rose to YouTube influencer fame in 2012 in the self-help sphere. You know, like very, very much a thing today. And so her company she founded her company, called Teal after that. The organization, as I just made you go to her site, claims to be focused on healing others from suicidal thoughts and repressed traumatic experiences. And again, mention the website again. I don't want to say it. Look her up. Her name's Teal Swan. I'm not going to give her any quick.com. It's very easy. You'll find it. But I'm going to set the stage even further for you now. So visiting her website, you're going to see a video, a streaming hero image video of people basically, honestly, it looks like a Scientology video to me. There's people in a big conference room, and it's got the big what do you call them? The air video, the cameras above, the aerial cameras.
Oh,
of these people.
Like a drone?
Yeah, people are woohoo, all loving her, that type of shit. And there's another, if you go scroll a little bit further, there's another image with a hero quote that says, "Surmount your suffering, heal your wounds, and awaken to the empowered, authentic life, even if you have been stuck in a pain for years." Okay, sounds great, right on the surface, right? Then, as I stayed on the website for not even 2 minutes, maybe 1.5 minutes, I immediately got a pop-up that blasted my monitor. And I have a background in PR and marketing. For those of you who don't know, we've already mentioned it several times, but so for this to pop up, I knew what was going on, right? I cannot even express to you how predatory this chick is. This pop-up pops up and says, "Where can we send you your 5 free guided meditations? Join our newsletter and get Teal's 5 free guided meditations and welcome gift." What is that welcome gift? A fucking rape and torture? I don't know.
Well, step 1, that's when you want followers, they say put them on your email list.
Right. So number 1, I bring that up for 2 reasons. 1, once again, I just studied digital audience strategy, got my master's in that ish. So from a marketing perspective, as you just said, the pop-up tactic on websites is a pretty solid marketing move, but it's luring visitors and viewers into her web in claiming to offer free guided meditations. And number 2, on the flip of this, think about how dangerous this type of messaging could be as a gateway into her cult, right? So think about people like me who've actually experienced personal loss and trauma on top of COVID, and the people like me who have an actual meditation practice, daily healing for me, right? That's something I've coped. That's one of my many coping mechanisms.
I thought you told me you only do it when there's a full moon.
Those are my tarot cards.
Okay.
No, meditation's daily, 15 minutes minimum.
Okay.
Tarot readings, full moon only.
Okay, I understand.
Or if I need something guidance, but honestly, no. I've retired my tarots to full moons. So anyway, think about people like me who love meditation, who have sought it out for healing, not only in the time of COVID, but in general, right? It's such a benign thing to think about for healing one's soul, and a healthy one in my life. So it's wow, how could that be bad? But thank God I know about all this predatory marketing tactics and this woman's background. Because unfortunately, for nearly 1 million of Teal Swan's YouTube followers, who are called the Teal Tribe, as I mentioned above, she has to date, by the way, over 860,000 YouTube followers.
Holy crap, that's a lot.
And unfortunately for them, they may end up finding themselves spiraling very, very quickly down the road of being into a cult. Because as I mentioned, again, at the top, Teal Swan carefully crafts her, quote, self-help and, quote, meditation content as a guise for her beliefs on suicide to overcome childhood trauma. Examples of her so-called benign videos are called...
I'm glad you're not part of the Teal tribe.
I could have been. Well, that's what I mean. Like, I could have been, right? Like, imagine if I wasn't doing research for this case and I was just researching meditation guides.
Yeah. Well, you would think you're joining a group of people who are like, oh, they're interested in the same things I'm doing. I want to meet people who meditate and are trying to, like, get through a hard time in their lives by using this method.
Exactly. So,
I mean, I don't see why you would think cults. I don't see any red flags. I'd just be like, oh, this is someone, or these are people I could probably bond with because they use the same methods I use.
Exactly. And that's why it's so fucking scary and predatory. So, other videos, very benign. How to express yourself with emotions. How to connect with someone. How to use your intuition. So, who wouldn't want to know these things, especially in the times we're living in, right? We need connection and expression more than ever right now in this time of isolation. So now imagine if I not only stumbled upon these videos, rather if I observed them on Google and Facebook because they were served up to me just because of recent searches I've made, right? Without any clue of the horrible cult leader that Teal Swan actually is. Like, again, as you just said, I could have technically been wrapped up in this self-help.
I'm interested to hear what she does.
Okay, so these self-help videos became especially problematic very quickly as her new age spiritual guru persona and scam, I'm going to say, led to at least one former student to die by suicide.
Oh, that's awful.
And here's why. This is a quote from the Vice article I mentioned. Quote, Swan claims to have her supersensory powers to be able to see what's happening inside people's bodies and to help people recover repressed memories of childhood trauma. She was recently the subject of a 6-part Gizmodo podcast called The Gateway. Her massive social media influence and controversial practices around depression and suicide, sometimes even encouraging students to imagine their own deaths in detail. End quote. So as you saw in that video on her website, she has massive amounts of quote-unquote Teal tribers, right, who are listening to these, again, I'm going to call them baby TED Talks, about how even thinking about suicide and imagining how you would do it to heal your childhood trauma.
I don't know but it doesn't sound like a healthy practice.
No, I don't think so. And as I sort of alluded to at the top, I have a very personal connection to suicide, and it happens to involve a person I loved very deeply, and I'll never forget the call I got when that person said they were suicidal.
No, that'd be traumatic.
It was devastating. Things have never been the same, and it's been about 3.5-4 years since then, and it was awful. I have another short one about a family friend who was a young girl in transitioning from middle school to high school, and she was I never told you this, I don't think. So pardon with me, y'all, because I get very emotional. She took her own life by hanging herself in the family home.
Oh my god!
And my dear family friend found his little sister.
What? That's tragic.
Yeah,
Holy
and
shit.
so anyway, my family friends and that family obviously do walks and marches every year about suicide prevention, and
that's so dark.
it should never happen because of bullying, let alone these cult leaders telling you to fucking contemplate it. So, as I said, I was gonna get very emotional by the ocean.
Well, that is emotional
in the episode.
Like, heavy shit. Like, how could you? That's really dark.
Yeah, it's something that I never.
How old was the girl?
Was still going into high school. So what would that be? 13, 14?
I think like 14, 15.
And she was
such a
beautiful child and person and being, and
that's so sad.
The fact that my friend that I was, decently close with, family friends, found her, like, Anyway, he's doing great. He has a family now of his own and has...
I don't know how people get past that.
I don't either. Anyway, I had 2 very close encounters with it, and I was triggered by Teal Swan's tactics because of that. So, thank you for bearing with me, everyone. It gets worse.
Don't need to apologize.
Yeah.
That's heavy shit.
Yeah. Now imagine it being the first scenario, which I won't get into, but it is still very heavy in my heart and soul. Anyway. It gets worse. Teal Swan has an entire retreat in Costa Rica. Hey, baby, I'm coming for ya. But
you are.
Unfortunately, she's there, where she offers up. I forgot the name of it. I don't know. I can't find it. Hold on. I'll find it later. But her retreat in Costa Rica, she offers up these types of meditations encouraging suicide, or at least suicidal thoughts to, again, quote unquote, heal childhood traumas and depression. She denies any claims that she is a cult leader. Swan's net worth is estimated to be only $250K, according to networthspot.com. And with so many YouTube subscribers and cult followers at her so-called meditation retreats, you'd think she'd have a hell of a lot more income and money.
I thought you were going to say like millions.
I would think so. Regardless, the fact that she still has followers who entrust her so much is seriously endemic of not just the COVID pandemic, but all of the mental health struggles. And I will go
She needs to work on her business plan.
Yeah, I'm going to go boldly out there and say that we are in a mental health pandemic, and she's contributing to the spiraling of it getting worse.
No, I agree. I feel like this is a hard time just to live right now.
Yeah, even my 6-year-old nephew and barely 2-year-old niece are like experiencing the aftermath and trauma of it. And my sister was like, I forget how much it impacts my children. And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. Without going, he couldn't even go to kindergarten last year.
Aw, that's so sad.
It was fucking heartbreaking. And
I mean, he'll bounce back, but it is like everyone, it's global. Like they keep saying it's a global, everyone's life has been changed.
Dramatically, exactly.
And I'm just like worried it's not going to end for another 10 years.
I don't think it will when you have lovely governors like ours that take funding away from schools that require a mask mandate. Douche-y.
Yes. Let's just not even.
That's political. Moving on before I get more enraged.
When we do conspiracy theories, we can talk about masks. Actually, no, because that'd be us bitching for like 2 hours.
Well,
no one needs to listen to that.
I'm happy to bitch about that for 2 hours.
I know, but everyone does it who is on the same side as us. They don't need to hear us.
As COVID still rages, we're all seriously struggling for mental health, as we just said. And according to a Google blog called The Keyword by Alicia Cormie, which I swear to God, Alicia, if you're out there, I swear to God, you're a former student of mine. Hey, what up? I hope that's you. And yeah. Anyway, good on you, Alicia, for working for Google. This Google blog is entitled, When It Comes to Mental Health, What Are We Searching For? In this article, it says, last month in the US, we saw spikes in fatigue-related Google searches. And the question, well, why do I feel so bad, reached a record high. There's a collective feeling of exhaustion, and we're all looking for ways to cope with it. Over the past year, we've seen an increase in searches related to meditation, hey, insert me, virtual therapy, walking, AIMS, and digital detoxes.
I was walking a lot before the pandemic anyway, but still.
Right, so and digital detoxes would be obviously not watching TV or using your phone or searching Google. The author, who may or may not be a former student of mine, interviews YouTube's own Dr. Jessica DiVento. She is a licensed psychologist and chief mental health advisor of YouTube. And she said, as a global society, there's a long way to go. Some of us going through the reconstruction phase will ask, why am I not feeling better yet? Transitioning out of this will take some time.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. DeVento then goes on to say, the rise in searches for mental health content shows that it's becoming okay to say that you're not okay. The more conversations we spark and the more places we share the content about mental health, the less stigma there will be. At YouTube, we work closely with experts in the mental health space to make sure there are credible and engaging videos out there. When someone searches specifically for anxiety or depression resources, we'll show information about symptoms, treatment, resources, and self-assessments.
That's good.
And finally, she says, for searches that may indicate someone in crisis, we're committed to connecting them with free 24/7 crisis support resources. End quote from YouTube's doctor.
That's good.
However, if that's the case, as YouTube's mental health advisor, why the fuck are people like Teal Swan still allowed to put up videos to the masses of vulnerable people out there?
I think, and you might know better because you study PR, but I can imagine it's very legally tricky to tell people who has freedom of speech and who doesn't.
Bingo. And that is exactly my next sentence. It's to me that Teal Swan's allowed to fucking put videos like that up there because she's not a mental health expert by any means. Should have no business being able to do that. But I struggle with this line all the time of personal expression and free speech, which you just said. In this case, speech is clearly harming the individuals who are not only encouraged by Swan to consider suicide, but to perhaps go through with it and go through with dying by suicide because of Swan's messages. This infuriates me, as you know, Ames, so much. So fucking much. But until we talk more openly about mental health and not shaming those of us who experience any form of depression, anxiety, or other conditions, we're never going to heal as a people, as a person, individual, as a country, as a fucking
I think we've
anything.
made leaps and bounds, though. Like, we're not where we should be, but I do think people are opening up and, like, being more honest about, like, I suffer from depression, I am bipolar, and I definitely think, like, our generation, millennials, are working on it, and Gen Z are even more.
Oh, they're way ahead of us. Shit.
Well, yeah, it's like every generation, but they learn from other generations. You know
Sure, and I'm just pissed off. We're never going to heal if this shit is perpetuated by the big tech companies, i.e. Google, Facebook, Amazon. I honestly have to say in this particular
I don't think
instance,
social media does anything for healing, though.
I
Social
agree.
media, you get on there, and it's almost like a certain I feel like even as a 33-year-old, I start comparing myself to people, and I'm like, I can't imagine at the age of 15, like the maturity you have at 15. I even feel that way. I'm like, wow, this person's just so pretty, so put together.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're putting the best version of themselves out there, but it's hard not to be sucked in. You're like, oh, wow.
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
Like,
that's why it's so nefarious. Exactly. And for her videos to be so seemingly benign with like those headlines and SEO terms of like, where do I get help? That then lead you down a path of thinking about contemplating suicide. Like, that's a fucking problem to me. And again, she has this massive following ship called her fucking Teal tribe. I just have to say, like, fuck you and people like you. You need to be held accountable for what the fuck you're appropriating, and they're not legitimate beliefs.
So I'm just a little confused though. Like, so is she encouraged? Like,
yes. So
this is where I understand you're saying this, but like, can we dive into what is she actually doing?
So at her retreats, she'll have people meditate under the guise of healthy, normal meditation.
Okay.
Her sessions start out with people envisioning their suicide.
Okay.
And 2 people at least, probably many more, have been confirmed as taking their own lives after listening to her sermons, quote unquote.
So I go back and, okay, so this is me being a little jaded. But if you're already suicidal and you attend this thing, wasn't there probably a good chance someone was going to kill themselves anyway? I
don't know. What pisses me off is that she's using meditation as a guy's...
I'm not standing up for her.
I'm gonna finish that sentence. I'm pissed off because she is appropriating meditation as healing, which I believe in, and equating it with, oh, let's heal your childhood traumas by contemplating suicide.
I'm not saying what she's doing
via meditation. That's not okay.
I want a disclaimer because I probably sound heartless when I say that, but I was like, I just wonder if a little bit, like if you invite 80, I don't even know if I should say this recording because I'm going to sound like a bitch. But like, I'm just putting it out there. So they're like, you invite 80 suicidal people and then 2 go home and do sadly kill themselves. Do you think the odds were in her favor that might have happened anyway?
Maybe, but don't claim to be a spiritual new age guru helping people and then tell them that suicide's the way out. That's not okay.
No, I agree. I agree her tactic is wrong and she's a horrible person. I'm just saying, I don't know if I should even say that out loud. These are thoughts in my head. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't say it out loud.
No, again, I'm triggered because I told you just 2 very personal stories of my experiences with those experiencing suicidal thoughts / one that actually went through with it. And I have no tolerance for anyone spouting out meditation as a guise to contemplate it and actually go through with it.
No,
that's not fucking okay.
I think it's weird to me that all the people there weren't like, this is wrong. We should get up and walk away. Like, what about meditating? Like, what a great life you would lead if you heal yourself.
Exactly. And instead it's flipped to, let's meditate about
how.
And
me saying that is not me excusing her. I'm just saying questioning.
It could have been great.
That's me being cynical. And if you hear this and you're triggered and mad at me, sorry. I'm just saying what I'm thinking out loud. Being honest.
On that note, if you are actually struggling with depression and or suicide, once again, please, or if anyone you know and love is, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. Please, I beg you.
And also, if someone's saying it, take them seriously. Like, even if they might be joking with you, go to the extremes, get help for them.
Yeah.
Because we all joke in messed up ways, and like, it's just like, just take people seriously. When they say something, believe them and help them if you can.
That's it. That's the end of this dark ride.
Damn, that was very, 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 very dark. I chose this because I know you went to study abroad in Tokyo.
I sure did. I was so blessed to have done that 2019 summer, right before the year of the fucking COVID, as we lovingly call it, the vid in our group. But it was the most amazing experience of my life.
So I was really curious when I was studying this if like any of this will stick out to you and it's like something you learned about while you're there. But we're going to rewind and we're going to start on March 20th, 1995.
Okay, so we were youngins, right? What were we, 12? No.
Not even that
younger.
Old, like 7.
Oh my God. We were
so I don't remember this. So imagine being on like rush hour traffic in Tokyo, millions of people.
Oh, I've seen it. It's adjacent to New York, but kind of worse because they're really bad drivers, and that is not.
But I'm talking about the subway.
Oh.
Did you ride the subway there?
Oh, yes, I did. Sumimasen. No, wait, that's not the right one. What the fuck do you say? Sumimasen means serve me. There's something that you say that means pardon me, and I already forgot, as you can tell.
Well, if you don't practice it, you lose it. But anyway, so on March 20th, 1995, during morning rush hour in Tokyo, millions of people who are rushing to work and obviously using the subway to commute. On board one of the trains was 5 bags filled with liquid nerve agent. The liquid is called, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, and I do want to put this out here one time.
Sorry, I looked it up. I apologize. I was right. Sumimasen. So if you're hanging onto the crowded subway rail and you're hitting people, and you know us big fat Americans are standing out for being big and white and fat, but you cling into people in rush hour with your backpacks, and you go sing my thing. It means excuse me.
I have a most traumatizing story about being on the subway. So I was
in where?
Paris.
Ah,
so I was there. We had
Amy's a world traveler, by the way, and she's like a globetrotter from like Europe.
But
no, I'm just
can
kidding.
I tell you my story though?
Yes,
we had childhood friends. We used to spend every Thanksgiving with them because they were another English family that moved to the States. Anyway, they had moved to Paris. We went to visit them. It was rush hour, and it was like everyone's on the train and compacted in as much as you could be. The doors are closing. This man, I know he's trying to be helpful, but he reaches his arms around me, pulls me in. Oh my God, please. They don't believe in deodorant there. I thought.
So he smelled like onion bags.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna pass out from his smell. Oh God. He was like trying to help me, so the door didn't shut me. But I was like, I almost think I would rather have the door shut on me because that smell sticks with me today. But regardless, okay, move on.
Not even in France. Wow.
A lot of places in Italy, you go in places, stores, I couldn't breathe. I'm like, how do these people? Come on.
So like my fantasy about like a hot ass Italian or Greek man. Not really a fantasy. Is that what you're telling me?
No, all of them. Just certain people don't wear it, and you feel like you're gonna pass out from the smell.
Oh God, help! I need somebody.
Okay, we're getting back to their story, but okay. And I was gonna say, because I don't want to apologize a million times, I'm gonna do one long apology. I will butcher lots of names during this.
I will do my best to help you in the pronunciation. Because what I did learn when I was there is that the accent a, I, a, o, u is actually the exact same pronunciation as the Spanish vowels. So that's one thing going for me in the Japanese language. Okay. But that's all I got.
But regardless, I'm going to say, if you're listening, sorry for mispronouncing a lot of things. But let me start over again so we remember people are boarding the train. It's rush hour, and on one of the trains, there were 5 bags.
Sorry, in Tokyo, right?
Yeah, in Tokyo. There's 5 bags filled with liquid nerve agent. The liquid is called sarin, if I'm saying that right, and it's a nerve agent that was developed by the Nazis. The packages started
Amy, I've never heard of this. And I came back loving that country.
Yes.
I'm so upset. What if I wasn't... No, I'm fine. What if my students aren't fine? Oh my God.
This was in 1995.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so the packages started to leak, and passengers said they could feel their eyes to begin to water and sting. The toxin quickly struck down victims in like a matter of seconds, and it started to make people choke and vomit. And some of the passengers on the train that day were blinded and paralyzed from the fumes.
Like permanently?
I believe so.
Holy shit.
Yes. And 13 people ended up dying. And this is the thing that's the most mind-blowing. 5,800 people, like, think about that number. That's like the size of my hometown. Because my hometown's 7,000. I'm from a small town in Indiana.
A country.
It's like literally Mount Vernon, Indiana. Shout out to you guys.
Hey,
my whole town.
Girls, y'all better be listening, y'all. Who's your hoes?
Yeah, who's your host?
I hear you. I know Amy's text.
My whole hometown was like injured, and it was like they said it was 3 separate train lines, but it was 5,800 people. They were all injured.
And like the fact that, I guess I'm so ignorant, and maybe because the Japanese are so good at like being so quote unquote humble and silent, like they didn't tell you that.
They said that's like part of their culture not to talk about these things.
Exactly. You never talk about things that are shaming
and
of oneself,
yes,
or one's family or one's culture. And holy shit, I'm sorry, I'm blown away.
This was all caused by the cult. It's spelled AUM, but the way you pronounce it is that I will be covering today. Okay. And they're the ones behind this.
Wow, dude. Like I'm so like mad at myself for not researching this, but I guess why would I have?
Like why would you know to do that?
Right. I don't know, but holy shit.
No. Yes. So the cult started in the 1980s, and the official name of the cult is Shinrikyo, which translates to mean supreme truth.
Which, P.S., you sounded great. Shimriko? Rico? You said it better than I did.
Well, I wrote out how to pronounce it. Like, I listened to it online, and then like I wrote it in a way I could understand.
Amy's hooked on phonics. I need that. Believe me, I do.
I'm trying. That's what I'm saying. And most people just call the cult which is AUM, but you pronounce it for short.
Like our filler word
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's what I'm going to be doing during this time, because I'm not going to
a lot of ums.
I'm not going to keep on trying to say Shinrikyo the whole time.
Shinrikyo. I fuck it up too.
And this I didn't even look up how to pronounce. So the cult was started by, I'm going to say this really quickly, Matus Masuso Shizuzo, and his followers called him Master Asaro Shoku. Shoku Asara was the son of a dirt-poor weaver of tatamati mats, which is a type of mat that would be used as flooring in a traditional Japanese room and would be often used where people practice martial arts. Asahara attended a boarding room for the blind. And the reason why is because he had partial vision, and is said that when he was in school, he was, as a cult leader, future cult leader, but at that time of his life, he was described as a bully. He was a very dominating child and also was known to be a scam artist and would often scam a lot of his classmates.
Oh my God, ding, 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 ding on all the 4 traits that you covered at the top.
Yes.
When he was what, how old, 9?
Well, we don't know. We just know when he was in school and as a child.
Exhibiting Trumpian, yeah, I said it, motherfuckers, Trumpian behaviors.
Mm-hmm. And he continued to do this as an adult when he opened his own acupuncture business that was known for like quack cures. You know what I mean? Like he just totally pretended he was like curing people and he wasn't. And in 1986, Asahara went traveling with a mission to find enlightenment while he was in the Himalayas. During his time there, he transformed himself into a guru, which we covered in another episode, which is a spiritual teacher, and started to create
baby yoga.
Yeah, and started to create his own religion called A-U-M. It is said that his religion blended Buddhism with Hindu deities. He also added the practice of yoga, which is like kind of bringing me back
to
Ep 2.
Triggered Ep 2.
Yeah.
Bikram.
I know, so much. Ugh. And drew from the Christian religion and drew on the concept of Armageddon.
Why is it? Okay, so it's either a sex, you're gonna fuck me, or it's the end of the world. What the fuck? Pick your poison. We're gonna fucking live and fuck forever, or we're gonna die.
We're gonna do none of the above.
Or none of the above, or D, we fuck till the end of time. And that's also an option. Anyway, that's just my thoughts.
But I want to explain this for all the non-religious folks like myself. Armageddon is from the Christian Bible, and it was the place where the final battle was fought between the forces of good and evil. Asahara disclaimed himself to be both Christ and the first enlightened one since Buddha. Oh my God, mega ego. Can we say that? Basically it became a doomsday cult, and they believed that the world was going to collapse after World War III, a war fought between the United States and Japan, and the members of the cult would be the only ones who would survive. So ultimately, they're a doomsday cult. He predicted this would all take place around 1996 or between 1993 and 2003, and he would preach that only the members of his cult would survive this apocalypse. And this religion, because it was a religion, like it was recognized as a religion, it reached official status at 1989. And at its peak, had tens of thousands of members worldwide. And I think it was around like 40,000 members. So it wasn't only Japanese people in the cult, it was like all sorts of people.
Global.
And the cult began in his 1-bedroom apartment in Tokyo. And this is like so flashbacks of Bikram, starting as a meditation and yoga class, and this is where he started to recruit his members. The cult, though, like ultimately grew so much because he recruited most of his members through magazines, videos, and books. His target was mostly young, educated individuals. The cult members would write stories and place ads stating that since they joined the religion, that they had telepathic visions, that they could levitate, and they would offer for others to join to learn how to do the same thing. He would also recruit members by speaking at universities, and he also published a few books where he got more members. And this is before social media. So most of the cult members, like I kind of mentioned, were made up of people who were either in their like early to mid 20s. It is said that the cult attracted very bright, very smart individuals from university. It is said that many of the members studied science or worked in technical fields like engineering.
Okay.
Also,
so they knew their shit.
Yeah, they were very intelligent. What I'm saying, they're smart as fuck. Also, they said quite a few of them were, it's what it's called, otaku, which is basically Japan's version of a computer nerd.
Otaku.
Otaku. They mostly recruited people who grew up watching anime and reading comic books and had a strong interest in science fiction.
All of Tokyo's youth.
Well, yeah, and imagine like levitating, so it all kind of goes hand in hand.
I can't, how did I never hear this?
And the cult was made up of members who were described as individuals who were the quiet kids in school and would not interact much with others, but loved to spend their time reading a comic or playing on their computer. Mm-hmm. It is said that was able to easily be a predator to a lot of the younger generation because culturally they were taught to reject individualism, as we know in Japan, like and in a lot of other Asian countries, like they're like going to school like dominates your life. So students in Japan,
and like you just said, sorry, real quick side note, it's about the collective good, not the individual good, and that's what I studied a lot, or at least was preached to by my curriculum in Japan, like, and I saw it in the business setting too.
100%. And so they said students in Japan spend about 240 days at school each year, which is a third longer than like kids in America. They would spend their days at school, afternoons studying exams, and their evenings are spent doing homework. So for that reason, it bred like a whole generation of like very educated people who are takutu, if I say that, described as nerds. And they actually had like no social skills because they never had time for fun.
And from what I understand, also no sex life, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, that is a big problem
and
there.
And it's such like a part of the human nature to be sexual, right? And like my friend Zach, who studied there for over a year, lived there for over a year, worked there for over a year for Canada's government, parliament, and he did amazing things, but he brought back all this cultural wealth of knowledge, and he said there were like department-sized, like New York City Macy's style sex shops, because they're so repressed that like the only way that they can take out their sexual energy is through these like wild like sex shops. And I didn't visit any. I should have, but
you should have. Them been fun.
When I go back, you know where's my first
or
stop.
We go back. I want to go back. But yeah, like, so this is like basically what I'm leading up to is like this setup was perfect for the leader to kind of like prey on these people, but the group was like these group of people, they're like, oh, like they always felt the pressure, like they had to do well in school, have like amazing successful careers. And so what the lure was to them was like promised their members, like, we can give you a more meaningful life where you don't feel this pressure all the time. And they were all like super fascinated by like claims that he could teach them supernatural skills. So this is like kind of showing you like what led the members to join, basically.
Okay.
And so some of the ways he would recruit members would be by selling what they called the Salvation Plan, which claimed that the group could cure like physical illnesses with health improvement techniques, that they could also help them achieve their goals by helping the members improve their intelligence, which is like everyone they're striving for, and also help them improve on positive thinking, which would ultimately help them focus on what was important to them.
Which ideally sounds great.
Yeah, 100%. And the cult was always considered controversial, but like I mentioned earlier, they were recognized as a like official religion in Japan. And at first, they didn't seem to receive much negative attention. That quickly changed. The cult started around 1984, like I mentioned, and it wasn't until the late 1980s that people started to learn about how sinister the group was. The cult was keeping people in the group against their will, kind of like Scientology we discussed, and they were forcing people in the group to donate their money. Apart from like the subway attack, they're known for murdering several people.
Holy shit.
Yeah, this cult is extreme.
Who were they? I'm sure you get to it. Prominent figures or just random civilians?
More people who were enemies of the cult, and if they were vocal about it. In 1989, a lawyer started to work on a lawsuit against that if it was successful, it would have caused the whole group to go bankrupt. The lawyer, I'm going to say Tasasumi Sakamoto, taped an interview with Tokyo's broadcasting system TV about his effort to take down the cult. And this part is just like, oh, so awful. So the network then went behind his back and showed the secret footage that hadn't been released yet to some of the cult members.
So I'm going to go ahead and assume that members of that media company were in the cult.
But shortly after this, he was murdered along with his wife and child by someone who broke into his apartment. And several of his colleagues came forward saying that they thought it had something to do with the cult. But it took the police 6 years to find the family's bodies. It wasn't until after the subway attacks that they were able to prove that the murders were caused by the cult.
I'm sorry, did you say 6 years?
Yep.
Well.
And it's so unfortunate, like, he did the interview and, like, they should have released that information to them. It's just really sad.
It seems so, like, unlike anything I learned there. It's, like, blows my mind.
Well, yeah, it's just kind of like, hush, hush, you don't talk about this there. So before the bombing in 1993, 2 years beforehand, the group attempted to kill people by releasing anthrax spores from a building in Tokyo. It wasn't successful, but it was reported that mostly people just complained about this, like the smell. Like it had a awful smell to it.
Fuck, I didn't know anthrax actually smelled, but
I didn't know that either.
Good to know.
Yeah, but they said, unfortunately, it did kill some birds, plants, and then, I hate writing this word.
Dogs.
Pets.
Yep.
In 1993, this is when the group started to secretly manufacture sarin, the nerve agent that I mentioned they used in the Tokyo subway massacre. And they also tried to attempt to manufacture automatic rifles and AK-47s.
I'm sorry, what? The Japanese?
And this is sad. So the cult tested it. So sarin on sheep at a remote pasture in Western Australia. It's reported that they killed over 29 sheep, which is really sad too. In 1994, the cult carried out a chemical weapons attacks against civilians. They used a converted refrigerated truck and released sarin. They wanted this chemical to float near the home of judges who were overseeing a lawsuit that involved a commercial real estate property that was the cult owned. So this incident killed 8 people and injured around 100 people. It was only after the Tokyo subway attack that the police learned the cult was behind this too. So they couldn't figure out what happened, like who caused this. So I'm going to tie it back to my original thought, back to the 1995 subway attack in Tokyo. As soon as the authorities started investigating the attack, they instantly, it didn't take them like weeks, it's like a day or two. They instantly made a connection that the sarin attack in 1993 was caused by the same group or individual, because they don't know at this point.
Right, they know it's the same one. They don't know it's
like the same patterns. They can
sure.
Yeah. So they started to look into and 2 days after the incident, the police raided the offices in Tokyo and one of their laboratory headquarters, and they found multiple canisters of toxic chemicals that they used to make the nerve-causing agent.
Holy fuck. I'm astounded. So
going back to the leader, Asara, he immediately denied having any connection, like they all do, to both events, but some of his followers came forward and admitted that the cult was behind the 2 attacks.
Oh, it wasn't me. It was those people on the other side. Does that sound familiar? I'm so triggered. I can't. Oh, those people.
And they also admitted, like, they were behind several other murders. Like, I couldn't cover all of them for like just a amount of time. There were so many horrible things they did.
But like at least 10 plus more murders.
Maybe. But they like ultimately they would try to kill anyone who was an enemy of the cult and was going to bring the cult down. But this led to over 200 cult members being arrested, and they were convicted of gassings and other violent acts. And 13 people were ultimately sentenced to death. Asara filed for an appeal in 2006, and that was denied. On July 18th, 2018, Asara and 5 other senior members were executed. Three of the other members that were sentenced to death fled the country. One of them eventually turned himself into the Tokyo police in 2011. And then another one was caught in 2012 in another town in Japan. And the third one, who was the most wanted because he was actually like the cult leader's bodyguard. And he's the one who drove the drive-away car from the subway attacks. So he's like most complicit. He was arrested last of all of them in 2013. And he was ultimately caught. He just got... So we would think that the subway attack and all this happening would be the ultimate end of the cult, but that is not the case. And another group formed, Hikara no Wa, which translates into Circle of Rainbow Light. And it was headed by Asara's spokesman and his successor, and the group was formed in 2007. The Circle of Light group claims that they have distanced themselves from the leader, and today they just practice the religion. So they don't like do the extreme parts, they just practice the religion. And the cult has been designated as a terrorist organization in the US and many other countries. Aleph and the Circle of Rainbow Light are deemed as legal groups in Japan, so they're not recognized as like terrorist organizations. And they haven't done anything harmful that we know of, so I can see why. And it is estimated today that they have about 1,500 followers. Very small, like much smaller group than 40,000, like I mentioned earlier.
But again, like estimations aren't ever accurate.
Well, yeah, because earlier I said 3,000. What did I say? 300,000 to 3 million.
Exactly.
But that is my case. I did not know anything about any of this. This is all new to me. I thought it was really interesting.
Samesies, and thank you for informing me of this country I still love. No shame. I love this country. I'm going back. I'm going to travel it way more of you. But like, oh my God, I was just painted this picture that these are the most peaceful, self-respecting, other-respecting, they're so about the community, as I was saying, that like this shocks me that they're actually have some terrorist potential in them. I went on a wild journey of highs and lows and darks and no lights, to be honest, but darkness to darkness, grayness to blackness. Real fast.
I agree. I mean, cults is not probably like the happiest topic. But regardless, let's all celebrate being individuals, free thinking. And on that note, I'm going to say cheers
and peace be witches!
Thanks for listening. Please rate and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast. Check us out on Instagram or bewitchedbanter.com. Suggestions for the show? Email us at bewitchedbanter@gmail.com. Credits, music, Phantom Fun by Jonathan Boyle from premiumbeat.com. Podcast edited and produced by Krista Hins and Amy Holt.